Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we're looking at a scenario where the UK and France unite to form an empire. It's going to be an interesting one. We haven't done anything like this before, but let's do it. All right. So, of course, this is France over here with Corsica, the mainland, and French Guiana. Then we got the UK with the Channel Islands, Northern Ireland, and just themselves. So, yeah, they're going to be uniting and forming an empire across the world. What an interesting scenario. The first country they're going to start with is none other. Oh, I think you know who it is now. None other than Ireland. This is mainly the UK that's urging for this, but France understands it would be nice to control this entire area shelf for themselves. Anyway, this goes pretty quick as British forces move in, French forces land in the south, and the country's gone. Just like that. Anyway, in the peace treaty, we see full annexation by the Anglo-French Empire. And the UK is happy now. They now become a autonomous region, including Northern Ireland. Anyway, France now wants their go and is going to declare war on the Republic of Belgium. French forces move into the south of the country, and before they can finish right off, the Kingdom of the Netherlands will join in to take the north of the country. So together they will split Belgium. And yeah, peace treaty, we see France annex Wallonia and Belgium, no, and the Netherlands annexing Flanders. Simple. Like so. Nice. So yeah, France has now got half of the land they wanted. And yeah, they're going to take a short break, and France will quickly annex Luxembourg. Germany's not happy about that, but whatever. They also sort out Monaco and Andorra, much to the frustration of Spain, but there's nothing I can do. There's no point of them trying it against this country. Lovely. After a few short years under a break, they signed the Anglo-French Empire signs an alliance treaty with the Netherlands called the Empires Alliance. We're going to call it, and both of the countries will then be declaring war on Guyana and Suriname. Forces from French Guiana move into Suriname, aided by Dutch forces as well as British forces landing in Georgetown. Once the coast falls and a bit more of this land falls, the rest of the countries will surrender. Peace treaty, we see the Anglo-French Empire annexing Guyana and the Dutch annexing Suriname. Fantastic. The French are now going to declare war on Haiti, and I'm going to be honest, this is going to be quite quick. Oh yeah, France has annexed Haiti, and the UK annexes Belize and the Bahamas. Now some countries around the world are starting to be a bit more against British imperialism. And for starters, we see France, Italy, and Germany signing an accord together, which is the Anti-Empires Alliance. Very nice. So these three join together, and in a surprising move, we see Portugal joining in on this alliance as well, on the side of the UK. Anyway, France and the the Empires Alliance is now going to move to Africa, where they're going to launch a multi-scale invasion of Algeria, Tunisia. Who would the UK have? South Africa, Namibia, Angola, and Nigeria. Yep, this is going to be quite a big invasion, but they plan to do it. Most of their military is now going to be sent over. France is going to send their military straight into Algeria. Portugal will send their military to Angola, and the UK will join as well. Each of them will be able to sort it out. France, the Dutch and the British are going to help out Portugal, and France is going to deal with Algeria and Tunisia, and also down there. Anyway, the French land in northern Tunisia, capture Tunis swiftly, move along the Tunisian coastline, and before they can really respond, the country has been taken out by French forces, who now start to spill over into the Algerian border. Algeria holds a firm defensive line, so the French launch a naval invasion just off the coast of Algiers and Oran in a dual-pronged invasion, and they launch a third one near Constantine, which works successfully, and the front is united. But this dual front is able to capture Oran and the westernmost regions of Algeria, northwestern. They move across, cut off Algiers, capture the city, and now Algeria is left mostly to die. They have got some oil though, and are receiving aid from their neighbours. Anyway, British forces land over here in this southern region, and as well as French forces, they move straight up towards Abuja and capture the city. However, this is not just it yet, as Nigerian forces are able to push back, but not able to push back in the capital city though, as the front now begins to expand, and they even bring Cameroon into the war. The Cameroon joins on Nigeria's side and pushes back a bit, and both them and Cameroon are able to push back the French and the British to just this region. Portugal quickly captures Cabinda, and with British and Dutch forces lands in Angola, quickly captures the capital city, and continues to move down the coast. They launch a few small encirclement campaigns in the middle of the Angolan territory, because most of the country lives in this area, I think. They launch a few more encirclements, and eventually the country will surrender over to Portugal. Forces now continue straight into Namibia and move a little bit inland, but mainly focus along the coast, capturing the city of Walvis Bay, which they use to pump troops in straight towards Windhoek, and they capture the city, leading to its surrender. Forces from Namibia immediately move into South Africa, and as well as a joint Dutch-British naval invasion of South Africa. They move over here, declare war on Lesotho and Swaziland, Eswatini, and the city is mostly gone. Move into Bloemfontein, one of South Africa's capitals, meet up with the other invasion, and South Africa splits in two. Forces hold a defensive line along the border up here and send the majority of the attacking forces into the south, which going pretty well. South Africa is unable to hold back the advance until they do make a quick counterattack though. However, the south does end up falling, and while they are moving the attacking troops back, South Africa launches a last-ditch attack into their old territory, going pretty well actually, managing to capture all of this and liberate most of Lesotho, and even recapture Bloemfontein. Moving back to here, but they are receiving aid from most of the world though, because they don't like this colonialism. Anyway, once the attacking troops arrive, South Africa, they hold a defensive line, which they build a wall over here. However, the British land in Eswatini, and from here, the country can no longer hold back. Lovely. Nice. Let's have a look at a peace treaty here. Oh, also Algeria surrendered. No. I forgot about here. Anyway, once the forces have been relocated, they land in Cameroon, Nigeria, and these guys cannot hold back. And eventually, both them and Algeria will decide to surrender. Now let's have a look at a peace treaty. Peace treaty here, where we see the UK and France annexing Algeria, Tunisia, this African part, and majority of South Africa and all of Namibia. We have the Dutch annexing this region here of South Africa, which is where Afrikaans is majority spoken, as well as Lesotho as a free gift, and the Portuguese annex Angola. Now we see African countries joining in on this anti-British alliance, where we see the Congo. Why is that not working? The Congo. All these guys down here. We have Malawi, Madagascar, Mauritius. I forgot to also color in these guys as part of the French Reunion and Mayotte. Anyway, also in Africa, we see Egypt and Morocco, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia. All these guys over here joining in on this alliance. And we also see Norway, Finland, and Denmark joining in on the little club they have. Which is a pain, as now they have to fight even more, but it's fine. As they got a valuable pickup in the region. I'm talking about the French and the British, by the way. As they pick up the nation of Sweden. Which I think is a good addition to the alliance. However, they also pick up the nation of Poland, who seeks to rebuild their empire. With the involvement of Poland in the alliance, we see the Baltic states, Austria, Slovakia, and Czechia. Slovenia and Croatia also joining in on the alliance. I don't know why they want to join, because they're nowhere near anything, but they did. And surprisingly enough, we see Hungary joining in on the Empire's alliance. Now, tensions build in Europe. And the European powers go after these guys over here. And they also declare war on the nation of Canada. Interestingly enough. Yeah. Canada has been attacked by the European powers. Canada doesn't know how to react because they were like, I thought we were friends, guys. They're like, well, we want to be colonizers again, so no, we're not. As this, even though Quebec is majority French speaking, they were actually part of the UK for the majority of the time. So, yeah. They're going to be part of... They're going to be what the UK is going to be taking over, because both these guys try and do, when they're invading, they do one each as almost like a fair thing to do. So the French are like, well, I'm going to get one of my own colonies back, so boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Lovely. So yeah, France is going after these guys down here. Not a good idea since the last time they lost. However, their military is a lot stronger now. So, you never know. French forces land in Cambodia and they do pretty well. America is supplying Vietnam. However, French forces are able to capture Saigon. Far more advanced military equipment begins to succeed as they move quite quickly up these skies, and the country surrenders. The British are like, how about we get Myanmar? They're like, yes, I like that idea. and they invite the nation of Thailand to the alliance, who accepts as they would like an empire. So, and the British are like, well, I'll give you quite a lot of Myanmar, and we'll give you some of Cambodia if you join. They're like, yeah, sure. So Thai forces, as well as British and French forces, will absolutely destroy the nation of Myanmar. It doesn't exist anymore. Very nice. Enough in Southeast Asia, where we see now British forces moving in from this African colony, going pretty well, eliminating most of it. And as the British forces make a landing in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, we see the alliance, the Empire's alliance, say enough is enough, and they declare war on these guys. So we're going to see how this goes. We have some other countries joining in. We have all these African countries down here. And we have the most important country is India, who joins the anti-Empire's alliance as they had a feeling that the British were coming after them next. So this is not good. We've just erupted into World War III. Out of nowhere. Anyway, what we have happening in the early stages of the war is Poland and Hungary doing one on Slovakia and immediately eliminating the country. Hungary does pretty well in Croatia, managing to eliminate the country, and similar in Slovenia until German and Italian forces arrive to stabilize the front, pushing back and recapturing Bratislava. However, Hungary has almost finished off the rest of this country until we have Bosnia joining in, which ruins the operation as Italian forces now move into Croatia, and Hungary has to retreat back to their border to hold this front. Polish forces move pretty fast into Czechia, with Prague falling fairly quickly. The Battle of Vienna begins. Czechia falls to Polish forces. Polish forces also make an entrance into Germany before the Germans actually start their own entrance into northern Poland. One place it won't be going as well, well, it won't go well at all for, is Sweden, as they have a really good job invading into Norway, moving all the way up to this northern region. However, the Finnish and the Norwegians have success in the north of Sweden, moving into this region here. However, it is a pretty big battle here. We have British forces deciding we should get Canada out of the way, so they accelerate their advance, and even we have some more French forces arriving in the region to help out. They capture all the important towns, move into Labrador, make a quick, swift landing in Newfoundland, in Nunavut, send their forces into the southern region, and they capture the most of the important parts of Canada, at least. But Canada doesn't surrender, much to the annoyance of the UK. So them and the French Navy move from French Polynesia, and they launch a naval invasion. Once they take over this island, they build up their troops here, and they launch a naval invasion of the west of Canada, capturing the city of Vancouver pretty quickly, and all of the British Columbian coast. They move their troops in rapidly, capture Calgary and Edmonton, and finally, from both sides, the tanks rush through, capturing Winnipeg and Saskatoon. Eventually, though, Canada does decide now is enough. They can no longer fight, and they surrender, much to the happiness of the UK and France, as this is the biggest country they have to face out of the war. Well, the biggest by land, but not strength. That's India, who is actually giving the British and French a big headache as their forces rapidly move into northern Myanmar. As Thailand, the British and French cannot sustain this this front as Indian forces start to flood into the region, move towards Yangon, and they eventually have to flee the city. Eventually, though, they will build the Thai, the British, and French build a defensive line with fortifications roughly around here, and they can no longer advance. The Indian Navy, the Thai, and the British are battling right here, as well as some French forces, who are mainly focused in Europe, though. The French, Portuguese, and British go after Spain, with the British moving forces in from Gibraltar, moving up into Andalusia, capturing Cadiz and Seville. Along with Portugal, they now move into Galicia. It's not going too well for Spain, as they're on their own. However, Spain does make a counterattack, push back the British and the Portuguese in the west, all the way here, as Spain does have a pretty capable military. Portugal now starts to get rapidly beat back as Spanish forces flood into their country, and the Battle of Porto begins. The French realize this and immediately send their forces into Catalonia, going pretty well. Catalan separatism starts to rise, same as Basque, and they're able to capture the two regions. Spain immediately has to pull their forces back as they don't want to lose too much more land. So, yeah. Spain loses their northern coast, and now the country surrenders after Madrid falls. Pretty quick, I know. French forces move into Algeria, however they are stopped by the Atlas Mountains. So they instead use Gibraltar and the southern regions of Morocco, of Spain to advance. And yeah, Morocco falls. They're not too worried about these guys. However, they do launch a few small invasions into this region just to capture some land, but it's okay, it's fine. Honestly, they don't care. French forces move into northern Italy, getting pretty close to Milan. However, the Italians are able to capture Corsica. The French are very pissed off about this. However, they decide to send most of their troops into Germany as they move in from the Netherlands and capture the important cities of Bremen and Bremerhaven. They now move into the German Ruhr region, capture their area, and Germany's economic output starts to rapidly fall as German forces have to retreat from Poland. Polish forces even start an advance into Lithuania, and with Sweden, they capture all the Baltics. Now, Germany being pushed back from both sides, Sweden pushes into Denmark, and Germany gets attacked, and Berlin falls. German forces retreat to Austria to hold the front. Vienna falls, and they fall to the Alpine Mountains, which the Italians do use to their advantage, being able to push back over here. And Italy is safe for now. However, with most of the European theatre concluded, they have to hurry their forces up as the Indians have now reached the Thai border and are beginning to advance into Thailand, as most of their military is here. They are able to capture the entire northwestern region of Thailand, moving into Laos, and even approaching Vietnam, with a rebellion bringing the governments back. The British have to get over there as soon as possible. This is really not good for them. So far, they're unable to fight all these wars at the same time. So the British have invited none other than the nation of China to the alliance. This is unexpected, unprecedented pickup for the UK. However, the addition of China to the alliance is going to rapidly change the war in their favor. North Korea joins the alliance as well. And I think you can tell where I'm going with this, as South Korea is dragged into the war, as well as Japan, who for these last years has been rapidly building up their military to now be almost as strong as France, if not as strong as France now. So they're able to combat the Chinese in the region. And I know this is all, but this scenario is already realistic, not realistic at all. And we now see Pakistan joining the blue team and the US joining the blue team. They were waiting for the perfect time to do this, but the addition of China meant that if they didn't join now, they would lose. The blue team would lose this war, and they don't want that to happen. They'd already been sending troops and supplies, but now they've decided it's official. So, with the Americans in the war, the British are aware they're going to lose. This in the entire American theatre, which is exactly what happens. Them and the Dutch lose everything in the region, with nowhere to stop it, really. And American forces now begin to enter into Canada, reinstating the Canadian government. Before you know it, Canada is back in the war because the UK were just too slow to add it into the country. But anyway, they wouldn't be able to defend against the US. So, yep, Canada's back. And now American naval ships are moving past this line, and it's not good. American naval ships begin a harsh and brutal naval landing in the Azores, which is one of the most defended territories, but eventually they are able to capture the islands. They do now get closer to here, but the British have rapidly increased the strength of their navy as well as the French, and are able to hold off the Americans for now. This is not going too well for them. However, the addition of China is going to significantly change the war, as now Chinese forces, British, Thai, and French start to move into Vietnam, recapturing the country. Myanmar quickly falls. Indian forces are forced to retreat back to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And, well, we're back to the same front again, aren't we? Pakistan fighting on India's side is weird, but they both agreed, let's put our differences aside, fight against a colonizer. India is able to hold this front in the Siliguri corridor, and China starts a small invasion from here. However, both Pakistan and India launch an invasion of the Xinjiang region in western China here. There's nothing really worth taking over here, but yeah, that's what we got. But this is significantly weakening this advance. Forces move into South Korea, however, India and China are using most of their forces. So once Japan arrives, they get pushed back, and they now start to push into North Korea. However, the Chinese understand that North Korea is kind of bad, so they leave North Korea entirely and fall back to the river, because there is a river that separates this. So they just give up North Korea, honestly. Now France and the UK realize they have to wrap up the European theatre, so their entire militaries, Poland and the Dutch and Sweden, move into Finland, and everybody else goes into Italy, which goes pretty well, as Hungary, France, and the UK, as well as Portugal, are able to knock out Italy, while the Poles launch a naval invasion from Tallinn to capture all of Finland, along with Sweden. It's getting quite long, this video now. Anyway, in Africa, because I know we haven't covered it and I feel kind of bad, it has gone well for them in some areas, as they were able to capture all of these guys down here, including Madagascar as well, and most of the Congo. And honestly, it has gone really well, let's be honest. Africa is looking something like this. And they're unable to stop it until we have the nation of the Middle Eastern nations. And yeah, honestly, this is really, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. It's not 3 a.m. or anything. I just don't know what's happening at this point. So yeah, all the rest of the world joins in on the side of the Anti-Empires Alliance. And honestly, I don't know what's going to happen from here. All I know is China's going to be the last one left. With the influx of millions and millions of troops, especially from South and North America and Indonesia, these guys agree to send their forces into West Africa, who massively starts to push back in against the French in the region. The French and British, and the Indonesians, Australians, and Pacific Americans launch a naval invasion of Madagascar, which goes pretty well actually. They're able to capture Reunion and they launch a naval invasion of Mozambique, liberating South Africa, Namibia, and before you know it, boom, 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 boom. The African front is falling apart. As we see, with the entire world fighting, the French can no longer hold the forces, so they have decided to entirely retreat from Africa, including retreating from the Canaries, the Americans and South Americans, after stationing their troops and preparing for a naval invasion in the Canaries and Morocco, they launch a naval invasion of Spain and a dual naval invasion of Spain, with the Northern American troops going from Madeira and the Azores. No, actually, we're not doing that. The main force from South America, though, lands in Morocco and moves pretty quickly into Spain. Spanish nationalism starts to rise, rebellions, revolts, uprisings. Before you know it, Spain has been mostly liberated. Portugal gets absolutely folded, and they now start to move towards the Pyrenees, who the French have turned into a huge bunker, so they can't get in from here. And they realize they're going to have to do another naval invasion. So once American Canadian forces move into Iceland and this northern region of Europe here, staying with South America, they follow along. Aircraft carriers are arriving in the North Sea near Iceland and the Faroe Islands, capture the Shetlands and Orkney, and they land in Scotland and Ireland. The Irish front goes well as Ireland declares independence, with the entire island declares war on the UK. Scotland does a similar thing. They land in Wales and Cornwall and start to move into England. England is unable to hold the entire American front back, and they get collapsed. France is like, well, you're so weak. I can't believe you did that. Oh, what was that? I don't know. Anyway, forces from Asia push back. Hungary falls. Poland tries their hardest, but they fall too. And before you know it, it's just France left, guys. France and China. Corsica falls. Invasion of southern and northern France. Americans landed Brittany and Normandy. The Dutch fall, and the French have given up. Sweden collapses, as they are not going to survive on their own, let's be honest. Now it's just China and Thailand. Thailand's like, they forced me into it, so they get out of the war scotch-free. Now, Russian forces move into Manchuria. Forces from Europe and Asia move into Xinjiang. India and Pakistan move in here. South China. Democratic revolts start to appear in central China. American forces land over here, and the communist government no longer has control, and the entire country falls apart. Do you want to see a peace treaty? I think you do. Let's have a look. Peace treaty here. And, well, the world looks completely different. Basically, down here in Africa, we just returned to the normal borders. Nothing else changed, except Comoros has now become a full country. Mauritius has annexed Reunion, and the Maldives has, and the Chagos Islands have become their own country. Not much new there. Over here, they were forced to give up any land that they owned in the Pacific. The UK is forced to give up the Commonwealth. French Guiana have become back. French Guiana has now become an independent country, and the rest of the Caribbean is returned to normal. The US and Canada have stayed the same as well. In Asia, we saw Korea. Oh, I forgot to do this bit. I did everything else, but I didn't do this part. South Korea annexes the North Korea, of course, and they annex some land, the Korean-speaking parts of China. to now become the United Republic of Korea, and they form an alliance with Japan and New China, because China has now become a democratic nation as the Taiwanese democratic government has taken over China. So now become the Republic of China, the new, but it's a much more stable one, as stable as countries like Canada or Norway or the US, etc. They've still got a socialist party, but that's socialist. Communism is the only party that has been outlawed from China. They no longer want that. And communism support went down recently, just before the end of the war, after what they were doing, sending children on the front lines, etc. So yeah. Mongolia annexed into Mongolia. Xinjiang and Tibet have been released. India annexed this bit of land from China here. Myanmar annexed a little bit of land from China. Laos annexed a tiny bit of land from China, as well as land from northern Thailand. Thailand was promised this little bit of land here if they left the war. Thailand was like, if you give us this, we'll leave the war and we'll give some land to Laos and Cambodia. They agreed with that because they wanted them out of the war, less fighting, because Thailand wouldn't have given up. And they also are forced to give up the very south of their country to Malaysia, as just like, don't do that again. Thailand's like, okay, well, we lost this, but it's not really that bad, as this is new land that we can develop for tourism, etc. Vietnam is very happy with this, as they annexed this region here of China with the island of Hainan, and it got most of the South China Sea, which is really good for them, as they got a lot more land, which they can use for things like tourism, etc. India annexed this. Myanmar annexed that, but lost this, as we know. Tibet's back. And Russia annexed this part of Manchuria. Not much else. In the Middle East, nothing happened. In Africa, nothing happened. The Azores and Madeira become their own country. Spain. Actually, I didn't do it, but we'll do it now. Spain fully annexes Portugal, which is quite a big development, but they've now just become Greater Spain. Portugal has still got autonomy inside and are allowed to use their own language, but it's just still called Spain. The region of Provence has become an independent country, and the government of Monaco is allowed to take over. No, and Monaco had been absorbed into this country. Corsica given to Italy. Austria annexes most of Hungary, including Budapest. Serbia annexes some land. Slovenia annexes some land. Croatia annexes some land. Romania annexes some land. Because see, Hungary kind of used to look like this, so you can tell Slovakia as well. Ukraine didn't get nothing though, because they got land from eastern Poland. Belarus got land from Poland. Lithuania got a little bit from Zwolle Gap. Russia got a little bit from Kaliningrad. Germany got arguably the most in Europe. They got this part of Poland, northern Silesia, and Pomerania. Denmark annexed Skåne from Sweden. Norway annexed all of this land and got access to the Baltic Sea. Finland annexed this part here, and they got this as well. Germany annexed most of the Netherlands. The south of it went to Belgium, who is now a lot bigger country. They also give up a little bit Luxembourg, who is also a bigger country. Alsace-Lorraine is also annexed into Germany. It's a new big Germany. France is just here. Normandy is released with Channel Islands. Brittany, Aquitaine, Spain annexes Andorra and these regions. Andorra was used as a military base and was severely destroyed in the war, so it's been annexed into Spain to help rebuild it. Nothing more here. Czechia annexed Silesia. Slovakia annexed some land from Poland. Poland got partitioned. Ireland annexed all of Northern Ireland. Orkney and Shetland went to Norway. Scotland is now an independent country with the Hebrides still and Rockall. Isle of Man is an independent country. Wales and Cornwall are also an independent country. And England has been split into North and South. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye. See you next time.